Welcome back to ACLU on the Hill. In this episode, we're speaking to Jason Groth, the Smart Justice Attorney at the ACLU of Utah, about some new legislation that he's been working on for several weeks, which is moving through the Utah legislature rather quickly. And in fact, we just got an update today that it's moved to the next step. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, spot on. So the bill HB 290 probation and parole amendments just passed out of the House this Monday unanimously. I think the vote was something like 72 and 2 abstained. So good momentum there. And then it just got assigned to the Senate Judiciary, Law Enforcement, and Criminal Justice Committee. We don't have a date for when it's going to be heard next, but we expect soon. I mean, the session ends next Friday, March 5th. And so, with the assignment, usually they get in front of the committees pretty quick. And so maybe this week even.
Got it. Okay. So basically it's halfway through the legislative session. It's gotten through the House. Now it needs to get through the Senate. And if it does that before next Friday, it will become law if it's signed by Governor Cox. What does this bill do? It affects the probation and parole system. Can you describe what that system is and how this bill will change it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I guess we'll start off with just generally what probation and parole are, right? So generally, instead of somebody going to jail or prison for a sentence from a criminal case, they can live in the community and be on probation and parole. And so they have to usually follow some guidelines, some rules you have to follow, including don't break the law, but also do other things too, like make sure that you have employment, that you have housing, that you make it to your appointments, that you do treatment, just kind of a laundry list of things. And, it sounds kind of easy when you think about it, right? Just like, okay, cool, follow the rules, like not gonna be a big deal. But then when you think about some of the rules being like, you need to have employment, especially right now, gainful employment can be really hard to get, right? Or even housing for some people. And when you think about people on parole, that means that they already started a prison sentence. And then to finish up the rest of their term or their sentence, then they go back into the community. And so when you go from prison with a felony conviction out into the community, it can be really hard to get a job. It can be really hard to find housing because people can just say, nope, I'm not going to hire you. You have a felony on your record. You're not going to be hired by me. Or, hey, with our housing requirements here in my municipality, I can just say no if you have a felony conviction. And so a lot of those things that seem pretty easy, like just follow the rules, aren't that easy. And so what this bill does is really addresses some of those issues. And what we're seeing here in Utah is that we have as of 2017, the second fastest growing prison population in the nation, right? And a lot of that is fueled because people that are on probation and parole end up going back to prison because they didn't follow one of those rules. And oftentimes it's not because they committed a new crime, but it's because they couldn't get a job, they couldn't find housing, they're struggling with addiction, right? And the idea of struggling with addiction, going back to prison, disrupts a lot of your treatment that you may be trying to get, and doesn't help people, stay on their feet, stay in the community, and really be productive members of society, which is what the point of probation and parole is. And so what this bill does is it really thinks thoughtfully, well, what are we really doing in these situations? Are we sending people to prison for the right reasons? Or are there other ways we can address these issues? So this is a really good piece of legislation, a good stepping stone in the right direction to make sure that people that are going on community supervision are in situations where if they're struggling, they can get help and succeed. Because otherwise we're gonna have the same problem of people cycling in and out of the prison system and also increasing our prison population when we don't need to. Because this is also, when you think about taxpayers, well, how does this impact me directly? And if I don't know somebody who's impacted, it costs taxpayers about $75 million a year to house people that are going to prison and also supervise people that are not succeeding every year. And so when you just think about how much money we can spend in actually helping people in the community, help them succeed and not send them to prison, it can be way more cost effective not to have prison be part of that equation.
So this bill is really targeting a problem that exists within our probation and parole system, is that thousands of Utahns are sent back to prison for these minor violations and end up costing taxpayers and end up derailing their lives even more. So this bill targets that and tries to make the system of community supervision more of a sort of an off-ramp to prison instead of an on-ramp. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. And one of the other things to consider too, it's not only looking at when people are having struggles or making simple mistakes, but also looks at when people are succeeding. And so the responses for parole agents or probation officers should also take into account when somebody's doing really well. If somebody's doing really well, that should be part of that equation. Because one of the surprising things is if you're under supervision, if you're on probation and parole, at a really high level, especially, and you don't need that level of supervision if you're doing really well, that actually can increase your likelihood of recidivating, right? Of committing a new crime or struggling. And one way to think about that is like, just think about your life right now, right? So just think about how you go about your day, the struggles that you have, the different issues that pop up, and imagine just having somebody supervising you 24/7 on top of that and adding a list of requirements that don't really make sense because you don't need those requirements to be successful, contributing member of society. And that's kind of what this bill gets at too, is like really just getting the nuances on a case by case basis. That's what we should be doing, making good evidence-based responses to everybody's situation.
Now, sometimes it can be hard to sell legislators or even the public on the idea of not sending more people to prison, right? Lock them up and throw away the key. How is the Campaign for Smart Justice in Utah proposing, and publicizing this bill and getting the message out that this is a good idea? What are some of the new tactics and messages and even, people impacted by this bill talking about it? How is that helping?
Yeah, so I mean, oh man, I could be talking about this for a very long time, but I'll try to keep it short. So, one of the things that we're doing is that we're going out and talking to people that are involved in these issues and making that accessible to the public to view. And so, one of the ways we're doing that is we're doing an ad campaign. So, if you've been on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you've probably seen some Smart Justice ACLU stuff that has these 30-minute ads that talk to policy analysts, that talk to impacted community members, so people that have been on probation and parole, to corrections officers, defense attorneys, just a lot of people that see this from a lot of different angles. And what's nice about this bill, for the most part, is that everybody agrees we need to do better, right? We need to help people. And so with those videos, you can catch those on our social media. You can also watch them on our website, smartjusticeutah.org. And then if you still watch the nightly news, you'll see some ad placements on TV. And what TV looks like nowadays is a little bit different than how we usually think about TV ad placements. But those will be popping up over the next couple of weeks.
Got it. So getting the message out that this is a smart reform to make for Utah to help people stay out of prison, get them back on track to rebuilding their lives. Great. And ACLU of Utah and Campaign for Smart Justice has even brought on a new staff member to help out with this project. Can you describe Nick's role, his background, and what he's doing?
Yeah, so we hired Nicholas DeYoung, and his title is kind of a mouthful, but it's the Smart Justice Legislative Policy Fellow. And so what he's working on this bill. He's doing an AMA series. There's one actually this Thursday, so February 25th at 4 p.m.
That stands for Ask Me Anything, right? Like
Yes.
A web series where people can ask questions.
Yep. So there'll be like a chat option, live stream on Facebook, and you can just ask questions. And Nick, along with a couple other people, answer those questions. And so he's been engaged in that process, really doing the public education piece. But he's also been testifying on this bill in the meetings, behind the scenes, working on getting this bill passed. And so he will be testifying at that Senate hearing whenever that pops up. But he also testified at the House hearing as well. So you can go on the legislative website and listen to his testimony. But his testimony is very powerful because his story is very powerful. He's somebody that's been impacted by the system through probation and incarceration, and kind of that cycle of technical violations where somebody is not committing a new crime, but they failed to comply with one of the rules, and then they end up going back to jail. And he talks about that perspective of cycling in and out while you're still trying to succeed. And right now he's doing really well. And, he can really speak to that issue in a way that me as an attorney, even though I've defended, cases in criminal courts and interact with clients in a lot of different capacities, I can't speak to that in a meaningful way. And so Nick adds this perspective that a lot of organizations that do this sort of work often don't have, right? And so with this sort of bill and this sort of legislation, these are the voices that we should be listening to. Like the first thing you need to do when we're doing the work that impacts a certain community is like, you got to talk to the community, and they need to be there the entire time. And we see these with all sorts of issues, right? Criminal legal issues, issues that people that are unsheltered face. Whenever we have impacted communities, like it, can't be about them without them. And that's just something we got to drilled in our head. And that's got to be how we do this work. And so I'm really excited and happy that we do have Nick on board to push this legislation along, and then really get that perspective and insight that we otherwise don't have.
Got it. All right. Well, Smart Campaign for Smart Justice in Utah likes to work on bills that can affect thousands of people. And this sounds like another bill that fits that category. It's halfway through the Utah legislature. We've got about 7 or 8 days left. We wish you luck, Jason Groth, in pushing this bill through and working with your team. Thanks for describing HB 290, probation and parole amendments. And we'll be checking in at the end of the session to see how things go. So cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.